All right. Hey, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the fifth podcast of the Bronx Bomber Blog. My name is Bryan Peng, and I am joined alongside tonight with Stephen Eareckson. Stephen, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Bryan?
Good. Thanksgiving break, so I'm excited to travel a little bit and just relax and take my mind off of schoolwork. So, yeah, for sure. So our first topic of the day will be the Aaron Hicks, John Ryan Murphy trade that happened, I think, about a week ago. So Yankees backup catcher John Ryan Murphy was traded straight up to Minnesota in exchange for their outfielder Aaron Hicks, who played in 97 games this year. So I believe he was versatile in terms of playing all three positions. So that's going to be a plus for the Yankees. So Stephen, what's your initial thought on the trade?
Unfortunately, I think that's going to be the biggest move in this season. But, Hicks has potential, and obviously he'll supplant Chris Young. But I really did like John Ryan Murphy. And, it's going to be tough to see him gone. But with McCann here, he obviously wouldn't see much playing time anyway. And I guess it gives Gary Sanchez a chance to shine in the major league. So we'll see what happens, especially if Gardner gets traded. Then maybe I hope that they don't try to start Hicks, but I have a feeling that they're going to trade Gardner and go with Hicks, even though they desperately need a right-handed power bat in the outfield.
Yeah, we'll talk later about Gardner, but my initial thought was that I think Gary Sanchez, I don't know if he's ready. He's going to be the backup next year, I think. So I don't know if he's ready yet. So that's my biggest concern. Even though he shined in the Arizona Fall League, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate over to the major leagues. And Aaron Hicks, I would hope he plays the role of Chris Young. Obviously, I think the Yankees need another right-handed power bat because I don't think Hicks didn't hit that many home runs. He only hit 11 home runs and had 33 RBIs all year. I know he got off to a really poor start last year, batting 150 through the first 6 weeks of the year. But we desperately need a bat that's not A-Rod that can hit it to left field and hit it out at least 20 to 25 times a year.
Yeah.
So let's I guess we can transition now over to the starting pitching. So let's give me your prediction for the starting rotation next year. I guess prediction versus what you would want to see. You could talk about both.
Well, to start with prediction, I think it's going to end up being really the same as last year. Tanaka, Pineda, Severino. CC is going to get a spot because they're not going to demote him to the bullpen or cut him entirely. And then maybe they sign a back-end star. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, Evaldi. I forgot about Evaldi. So Tanaka, Pineda, Evaldi, Severino, and CC. I hope they can get rid of Ivan Nova because I don't want to watch him give up home runs anymore. It's ridiculous. I would make a lot of moves in the starting rotation because I don't trust anybody besides from Severino, but I don't see that happening. In an ideal world, I know he chokes in the playoffs, but I would sign David Price because I think the horse that he is in the regular season is worth the choking in the playoffs. You could address the playoffs later, but getting there is the problem. Right. So I would go for Price or Zimmerman personally to anchor the rotation, but they won't.
I would love to get Price, but our very own Matt Cody, who writes with us on the Bronx Bomber Blog, obviously a very devoted Red Sox fan, he's been tweeting a lot about how Dave Dombrowski, Red Sox GM, is just going to literally not give him a blank check, but go after Price, and they're determined to land either Price or Greinke, but they obviously prefer Price. So getting Price, Greinke, Zimmerman, I don't think Yankees are going to spend that much money on them. Obviously, I know Wei-Yin Chen and Jeff Samardzija are two starters in the free agency market that the Yankees are probably looking at.
No to Samardzija.
Samardzija, I don't want to get near him.
Never.
Wei-Yin Chen, I haven't watched him enough to see his stuff. I know that he's durable. He has a good ERA of under 4.
Yeah.
That's not saying much, I guess. I think the Yankees also need a really good, or not a really good, but also just a reliable lefty that can start throughout the year without getting injured. CC is still a question mark at this point. Obviously, I wish him well on his personal health and reasons like that. But we can't rely on CC to. No. I haven't seen enough to rely on him for 5-6 innings every 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in terms of rotation, I think the Yankees will definitely get a starter this offseason, whether it's free agency or trade. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be Tanaka and Sebi 1-2, and then probably Evaldi and Pineda 3 and 4, and then the free agent signing at number 5. Apparently, according to a couple of blogs, as well as just articles that I've read that are reliable, Adam Warren will be entering the 2016 season as a starter. It doesn't mean he's in the rotation, but the fact that he's going to spring training as a starter means that we're going to lose not a critical part of bullpen, but he's really good at giving us 1 to 2 innings and a reliable relief, especially when the Yankees are losing and need to rest, Dellin and Andy Miller. So how do you feel about Warren starting, especially when the Yankees already have these many, these 5 guys and potentially free agents coming in?
Well, that's a good point you raised about Warren, Brian. I completely forgot about him, to be honest. But I've wanted Warren in the rotation for a very long time, as you know. Right. And I wrote an article about this earlier. I would get rid of Pineda because I think he's too inconsistent, too injury prone. He's shown flashes of brilliance, but he's also been just putrid. So I would sell high on Pineda, maybe get a reliever and some prospects to rebuild the farm because I don't trust him whatsoever. Pineda and Nova would be gone, and I would slide Adam Warren into the starting rotation. Yeah. I think he should start. He best serves his team as a starter.
Yeah, I think Nova's not going to start. At least be in the Nova should be in the rotation. Whether or not it's Warren or someone else replacing him, I don't know. I would love to see Warren give us possibly more than 5 innings at a time. I don't know how stretched out he can be, or how far he can go in terms of pitching. I don't know if he's the type to go 7 or 8 innings.
He's
gonna need to give us that occasionally.
Yeah, but right before Warren was in rotation, he was giving us 7 or 8 innings. There was a string of, I think it was 3 or 4 starts where he threw at least 6 innings. So he was getting into that mode. It's just they didn't give him the opportunity.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of Pineda, I think we'll probably disagree on that. I would like to see Pineda get in the rotation in terms of probably be a number 4, and that's because of his potential to be brilliant. I hope that. I don't know. I think that the Yankees will need to replace. It's too much to replace Pineda at this point. You're already looking at trying to replace Nova and potentially CC. So I don't think the Yankees have enough. Either trade. Make enough trades or can find someone out of the free agency market to replace Pineda, Nova, and potentially CC as well.
Yeah, the general manager isn't very creative.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's been boring so far, but I really hope he gets something going because, man, the Yankees need a lot of help in a lot of spots. So moving on and talking about trades, continuing with that topic, Brett Gardner is a big. I guess you could say he's on the trading block for the Yankees. What's your opinion on that? How do you feel about Gardner being on the trading block, and maybe who do you think you can get in return for Brett Gardner?
Well, first on Brett Gardner, I have to take a little credit for this because at the trade deadline, when he was an all-star, I was one of the few people who said they should sell high on Gardner because I knew he wouldn't repeat what he did in the first half because for much of his career, he's been a mediocre to average player. That being said, I think the Yankees need to get rid of Gardner because him and Ellsbury at the top of the lineup is not a potent 1-2 combination as we thought. They showed flashes of it, but between Gardner's inconsistencies as a player and his historically awful second halves and Ellsbury's, injury issues, I think one of them has to go. Nobody's taking on Ellsbury, although I would like to, I think a him for Cano could work for both teams. It won't happen, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it's more fantasy.
I would get rid of Gardner, though. I would try and flip him for a starter or some relief help because I think he's the only things need to be shaken up, and I think he's the only contract that we could unload. Really,
I think Cashman honestly is waiting to look at outfielders in terms of signing them off the free agency market. I think he's waiting because if he doesn't get one and he trades Gardner, the Yankees are going to have to start Hicks, and that's going to potentially be a problem if he's consistent. But I'm hoping Cashman is being logical in that he's waiting to see if he can sign potentially a Dustin Upton or Alex Gordon maybe. I don't know if the asking price is too high for either of them, but if he can do that, Gardner is going to be gone for sure. And if we can get some B-level prospects, rebuild the farm a little bit, I'd be pretty happy with that as a Yankees fan. Any further thoughts on Gardner?
I think you hit it on the head as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm I remember watching Hicks play, but I think Miguel Sano was back. I don't know if Miguel Sano was Minnesota. I don't know if he was PH.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
He hit
remember
home runs left and right.
yeah, it was yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to Robinson Cano. Man, my favorite player, but I guess when he started, not running to first base and being lazy with his throws, he kind of fell off the charts for me. So, and I guess we all know the news out of Seattle is that he is potentially unhappy. And I don't know if there's any credibility to the news, but he wants out. What's your opinion on this, Steve?
As far as Robinson Cano goes, I never wanted to see him gone in the first place, and I thought it was counterproductive for Cashman to bring aboard Ellsbury, who's injury-prone and not as consistently good as Cano. So I think it was a mistake. If you were going to sign one of them, I would have rather had Cano. But again, nonetheless, I don't want that contract. It would be nice for the next couple of years, but the facts are Cano is 33 years old. That contract takes him all the way to, I think, his 41 or 42-year-old season. And if we were to miraculously work out a trade, which we won't, but if Cashman was miraculously to do something, we'd reap in the benefits for maybe 3, possibly 4 years. But after that, the contract would be an albatross. We have another CC on our hands, as far as a position player goes. And I just don't want anything to do with it. His work ethic, it never really bothered. It annoyed me, but he still put up the numbers. And he was never really a clutch one, but as long as he put up the numbers, I was fine with it. And I would love to have him back, but unless they're taking Ellsbury off our hands, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. What about you, Brian?
Okay, yeah. For me, it's funny because I think we're still really annoyed at Brian Cashman, putting Steven Drew at second base for 90% of the year. Yeah. So for me, it's like, oh, great, Cano replacing, Refsnyder, Ackley. Great, let's have him back because, second base is going to be a weakness for us next year, regardless of what happens, unless they sign or trade for Zobrist or sign someone out of the blue. But realistically, looking at long-term, especially if we have to take on the tail end of the contract, I wouldn't want him back. And that's for the reasons that you stated. When he gets past 37, 38, is he going to be the defender that he was when he was 25 with us? Probably not. And the fact that, he put up numbers, but he's not clutch, that also doesn't really help us as well. So unless Seattle were to cover the back end of his contract, I think the Yankees would be fine. I'd be fine with him if the Yankees covered the front end of the 8 years left or 7 years left. And Seattle covering, the back end of it, maybe the last 2 years or something like that, just in case it does fail. I don't know if that's allowed or if that's possible. If that is, I would be open to looking into that. I don't know how much the Yankees would have to give up, though. I'm not really sure. What do you think about how the Yankees would have to give up for that?
I wouldn't give up anything of substance for Cano. If it was, like I said, I think what works for both teams. Ellsbury's from Oregon. I think he's from Oregon, which is right there. But no, Seattle's in Washington. Sorry, I had a moment. But Oregon and Seattle are right near each other. So I think that could work for Ellsbury. But like I said, I don't see it happening, especially because Seattle, they just made a trade with, I believe it was Texas, for one of their young outfielders. His name is escaping me at the moment. But like I said, they were looking into Gardner before. Maybe we could have worked something around that. I know our colleague Scott recently wrote an article regarding Cano and possibly, a trade getting Paxton as well. But I wouldn't give up anything.
That was an interesting article that he wrote. In terms of second base, Ben Zobrist is a free agent, I believe. I think he is. How do you feel about him? I know he said he'd never leave Kansas City. I think he named his child middle name was Royal or something like that. I'm not sure. I think that's why people thought that he was just not going to leave Seattle, Kansas City.
Kansas City, yeah. Zobrist, I like Ben Zobrist. I like everything he brings to the table. Very versatile. He's like Martin Prado, who I'm still pissed that we trade. Never should have got rid of Prado. Huge mistake. But that's besides the point. I digress. Zobrist is 34. He's going to be asking for a 4-year contract. Maybe I saw it in an article today. I think it was in the New York Post or something, likening about the prospects of the Mets signing him, likening it to the Curtis Granderson contract, which I wouldn't be willing to dwell out. Honestly, from what I saw, I think Refsnyder. I'll take my chances with Refsnyder and Ackley at second right now. I saw promising things from them. I think they're both a hell of a lot better than Steven Drew. I think Brendan Ryan should go as well because I don't want to see him play second base. You know, Girardi has some type of man crush on him. Yeah. So I don't want to see Brendan Ryan again either.
I mean, Brendan Ryan's going to be that 25th player on the roster. I think that's what I quote Scott. I think he said, just, you know.
I hope not.
They're not going to release him, especially the start of the year.
It's only $1 million. They could eat that. They won't.
I don't know. I would hope so as well, yeah. And continuing on the topic of, I guess, trading, there is a rumor out there. It might be dead now, but Gardner for Starlin Castro.
Yeah.
Castro comes with he's due $40 million for the next 4 years. Straight up trade, Gardner for Castro. Any opinion on that? It is Steve, can you hear me? Oh, the internet just
dead. As eager as I am to get rid of Brett Gardner, because you good?
Did you say the last thing I said was, what's your opinion on Castro for Gardner? And then the internet cut out for, I don't know if it was me or you, but I couldn't hear you for like 15 seconds. So.
All right, so go again on that.
Yeah, no.
Castro for Gardner?
For Castro Gardner, what you think of that?
Oh, well, if it was a year ago, I would have done it. But Castro really regressed as a player this season.
Really?
And I'm not really too keen on him. As eager as I am to get rid of Gardner, I wouldn't do that trade.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do it either. Looking at his numbers this year, he hit 265, only 11 home runs, 69 RBIs. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know how Cashman's gonna, or Girardi, are gonna plan to use Cashman and Ackley at second base. Not Cashman, Ackley and Refsnyder at second. Yeah, Ackley and Refsnyder at second base. I don't know if it's gonna be, just batting, who's starting pitching next in that particular game, or if it's going to be someone as an actual starter and then a backup.
Yeah, I think it'll begin as a platoon.
Okay, yeah, that's what I heard too as well.
And then eventually, as one player begins to stand out, if one does better than the other, they might eventually get the starting job. But I think it'll begin as a platoon, maybe even a spring training competition. We'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of the platoon just because I would rather see someone get consistent starts day in and day out just to progress. Yep. For me, if I had to choose one player right now, it'd be Dustin Ackley. Just, seeing what I saw at the end of the year last year after he came from Seattle. Another concern of mine is Cashman and Girardi not letting Refsnyder play because of his quote-unquote attitude problem. Now, the reason why they have to say, oh, we're going to put Ackley and Refsnyder together at second is because what else he's going to say? I want to sign back Steven Drew? No. He has to say something just to please the fans and,
don't be surprised.
Oh, man. If he does that, we can unleash a 30-minute rant on that. No problem. I'm sure you'd be able to write a 10-page rant on that. But I would hope Ackley starts. I guess that's as far as my opinion on that topic. For the rest of the infield, do you have any concerns that you'd like to address? I guess we could just go over potentially looking at next year. Obviously, Headley at third. I know you don't really like Headley. I mean, he's stuck with us for a while. So hopefully he can get rid of his errors because, oh man, Mark Teixeira saved at least 20 to 30. When he was playing, which was only 116 games last year.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, because the signal was going
okay.
in and out. But as far as the infield goes, I guess I'll go from third to first around the diamond. I have nothing nice to say about Chase Headley. I think he's awful in every single way. He can't hit nor field. The least clutch player I've ever seen. But like you said, we're stuck with him for the next 3 years, so I guess we might as well make the best of it. Maybe he has a rebound year. I don't know. Martin Prado should be at third base. But besides the point. Didi Gregorius, I'll admit I was very wrong. I was very down on Didi Gregorius. I thought he would be an abysmal failure, but he's been a pleasant surprise. He needs to stop swinging for the fences, which is very irritating because he's not a power hitter. But if he continues a lot of the trends that he began in the second half of last year, then because he got better as the months progressed, I'm really looking forward to seeing Didi taking the next stage in his development. Obviously, second base we just spoke about. First base, it's going to be Teixeira, although he'll inevitably get injured. And then we'll have to see Greg Bird, but we only have a year left of Teixeira and his injury problems anyway.
Yeah, Didi, I look forward to him moving up in the lineup next year, and especially if Gardner goes, and we don't get necessarily a power hitter back, because two spot I don't want to put Headley there. It's just not going to work out.
Double play.
Yeah,
double play every time.
There you go. Yeah, Ellsbury gets on it, it's over. So at the starting lineup next year, Ellsbury. I don't know who's going to be second if Gardner's gone, but if Gardner sticks around, he'll obviously be with Ellsbury at the top of the lineup. Rest of the infield to share. Hopefully, he can play healthy for the whole year. Really need him to step up, and hope especially if we want to make a deep playoff run. His injury last year really hurt us, and Greg Bird. Now, Greg Bird is another topic we can also address since we have probably on 5 to 10 minutes left. Greg Bird has been brought up by many of our writers in terms of trades. What do you think? Do you think he'd be a good asset to trade, or would you like to see him back up to share in case something does happen to him next year?
He's the one right under Severino. He's number 2 that I wouldn't trade, because first base is a position where obviously, like I said, it's inevitable. Teixeira will get hurt. The most games he will play next year, maybe 120, 130. That's been a trend since 2011. He will get hurt. And I'm not saying this to, speak negatively of the guy. It's just he will get hurt. And the fact that we have a major league ready first baseman who showed so much promise last year, just waiting in the wings is an amazing insurance policy to have. And plus, Teixeira is off the books next year, so that's going to be Bird's position. And if you were to trade away Bird, you're left with a vacuum at first, like you saw at second when Cano left. And I just wouldn't do that.
Imagine Brandon Ryan playing first base or something like that. I mean, that'd just be horrific if this. Oh God, yeah. I guess the last topic we can talk about is the article that our Scott Landry wrote on, and it was titled "Alex Gordon is the best fit for the Yankees if Gardner is traded," and he compared Alex Gordon to Jason Hayward. Now, I don't know if you've read the article, but for me, my opinion on this is that I'm not sure. Gordon and Hayward are both apparently projected by MLB trade rumors to be given the same amount per year. Hayward's supposed to be given 10 years and nearly $200 million, while Gordon's at 5 years and 105. In terms of, their averages last year, Gordon batted 270, so did Hayward. Both hit 19 home runs. Gordon had a slight higher number of RBIs, 75 to 68. So they're almost similar. These are career batting averages, and obviously I think season home runs from last year. So do you have an opinion on who you'd like to see if the Yankees get rid of Gardner?
Like I said, I'm going to separate what I would like to see from reality. In reality, if the Yankees got rid of Gardner, In reality, if the Yankees got rid of Gardner, we'd be stuck with Aaron Hicks, because, like I said, Cashman is not a creative GM, and he doesn't have the permission from our frugal owner to really do anything. But I like Alex Gordon. I didn't get a chance to read the article, but I've heard about it. I like Alex Gordon a lot. I also like Hayward, but I'd be more inclined to go with Gordon because he has that playoff experience. He really showed, as a member of the Relentless Royals, that he could come up clutch. And I think that's something this team is lacking. So if they're comparatively equal and he'd be a lesser commitment plus the playoff experience, deep runs with the Royals, I would definitely go for Alex Gordon. Don't think it would happen, but I would do it.
Lesser commitment, but the same average amount per paid. Obviously, my first choice for outfielder if Gardner's traded is Justin Upton. Is that for you as well, Justin Upton?
Throughout the season, seeing Cespedes take over New York was I wanted to see Cespedes, but in the World Series, I saw his weaknesses because because he was just so good during the regular season. He just basically put the team on his back.
Absolutely.
But after seeing his glaring weaknesses in the World Series, as far as, his mental blunders, I wouldn't go. I like Cespedes, but I think we would have to go for Upton because he'd be a sure bet.
Yeah, Upton he's hit almost 30 home runs in the last 3 years. So, especially playing last year at Petco Park, which is not a pitcher-friendly ballpark. So, love to see Upton here. Sorry, go ahead. You cut out, so go ahead.
Oh, you said which is a pitcher-friendly ballpark.
I corrected myself.
Yeah.
It is a pitcher-friendly park.
Yeah, the delay was.
Yeah. There's some lag going on. So I guess that'll conclude it. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to say to the BBB community? Any comments on just the offseason in general?
I hope we have an active offseason. I hope we address the needs of our team, and I find it interesting that a last point. It's a little bit of a rant, but I might as well say it. I find it interesting that our general manager, who was so keen on not doing anything at the deadline when we were up 8 games in the division and had a real chance at doing something, stood pat, did nothing, is now open to all these types of deals. I just think it's an interesting contrast, and it really annoys the heck out of me.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you can talk
about
him just being a complacent guy. He didn't want to mess up what the team had. Didn't realize that Gardner would probably have a really bad second half. Didn't realize Evaldi would get hurt. I mean, I guess some of those were just uncontrollable, but I mean, I would have loved to see at least just one starting pitcher improvement and improvement at second base. That's all I asked for. That's all you asked for. That's all many of us asked for. I guess my concluding thought is that in terms of priority for this offseason, I put starting pitching as first and then outfield as second. And that's just because, for me, Brett Gardner is not like, I don't hate Gardner, I think, as much as you do. If he's around next year with Hicks backing him up, it's obviously as a result, the Yankees would have to get a starting pitcher or make some move for me to be happy. But if it was Gardner sticking and then Yankees getting a good number 3, number 4, whether that's Wei-In Chen, Samaras, or someone else through trade, especially someone from Cleveland, Danny Salazar, Carlos Carrasco, I'd be happy with that. If the Yankees could trade Gardner to Cleveland and create a package that would get us Salazar Salazar or Carrasco back, I'd love to see that happen. Both of them are really good young pitchers and could bring a lot to the table for the Yankees.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for tuning in to the 5th podcast of the Bronx Bomber Blog, and we'll see you all next time.
Good night.